So it's fair to say that Superman has been in the news and on a lot of people's lips quite a bit in recent days, and God knows we've spent our own amount of time talking about him ourselves. But the recent controversy of the newly released Batman vs. Superman got me thinking about a question that I'm not sure I've ever really spent the time to think about, because honestly, I've never been a huge fan of the character. What is it exactly that makes Superman such a special character? What makes him a mainstay? What makes him the huge icon we've always known him as? After all, he's not exactly the most relatable character. He's invulnerable, has all the powers he could ever want, and somehow keeps getting new ones, and he always seems too perfect to be someone we can connect with on a personal level. So why does this darker interpretation, where he's grittier and filled with more doubt and a stronger god complex, somehow feel so wrong, and therefore not interesting? Shouldn't it be more interesting? Isn't the idea of being an outsider with the weight of the world on your shoulders more interesting and relatable? So why isn't this connecting better with people? Why isn't this image working? Or for that matter, why isn't the newer 52 Superman working? Where they strip away his powers or make him overly confident or willing to take action? Is it just because of the bad writing? Well, at least as far as the movies go. Or is there more to it than that? I mean, we hear all the time people call Superman a symbol of hope, and an ideal to aspire to. But what exactly does that mean? How can someone who really takes no risks to fight monsters and villains possibly be a symbol? What exactly is there to aspire to? But what I think the movies have seriously missed, and arguably the more recent comic series, although I'll admit I haven't read much of them, is that what makes Superman special is not the power set, the villains he fights, or even the heroic deeds he accomplishes. What makes him special is really the same as what makes many other superheroes special: the person behind the costume. But even in that regard, there really isn't any other superhero quite like Superman. There's the common phrase that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and we've seen over and over why this might just be the case. But Superman feels like the ultimate exception because he's never let his power interfere with his desire to do good. He's never used them to impress anyone or to show what a man he is or what a god he is. He uses his powers in the most humble way possible, and that's what makes him a wonderful character. He doesn't do dark, he doesn't brood, he doesn't give in to self-doubt or anger, or the emotions that would cripple most of us. That's not to say he doesn't feel them, but he always finds a way to turn them into a positive, to learn and grow from it so he can be the hero he knows he needs to be. His pure optimism and desire to do good, and see the good in others, no matter their faults, is admirable. And it's honestly one of the most important things that we, as a human race, should be aspiring to. That's what makes him an inspiration. It's what makes him the force for good and a symbol for hope. Not because he saved the day, but because he never once believes that it can't be saved or that it shouldn't. He always believes in the good of humanity because for most of his own life, he's been blessed with some of the best they have to offer, and he believes that the rest of the world should aspire to be just as good. And you know what? Why not? While some might dismiss it as cheesy or naive or overly optimistic, why shouldn't we aspire to be good to each other? Why shouldn't we be fighting to make things better for each other rather than tearing each other down? Why shouldn't we believe in the best in people? Why not push for the best in each other and the better world? That's what Superman wants, and that's what he's always fighting for. And no task is too big or too small to accomplish that. As long as at least one life is affected for the better, does that not make the whole effort worthwhile? I think the most commonly cited examples of what Superman really means, and honestly the moments that inspired this video, are both in the same vein, but no less heartbreaking and illustrate exactly what I'm talking about. The first is a very well-known scene in All-Star Superman, where Superman, while flying across the city at lightning speed, fixing various wrongs, and generally doing what Superman does, he hears a panicked phone call from a psychiatrist desperately trying to talk her suicidal patient from jumping. The scene cuts to the suicidal girl crying, dropping her phone off the building ledge as she closes her eyes, preparing to take one more step. But Superman shows up behind her, comforts her, and just holds her tight as she grieves into his arms. It's only a one-page scene, only 5 panels, but in those 5 panels, a life is saved in a way that cuts deep down for many of us. The second example is one that's been circulating around a lot lately. Superman finds out that there's a woman threatening to jump from a building ledge, and Superman goes up to talk to her. It's a similar setup, but it is longer and shows to what extent Superman will go to help, however big or small. When he goes up to talk to her, the woman explodes on him, telling him that she won't talk to him unless he agrees not to stop her or take her down by force should she decide to jump. Superman reluctantly agrees, as she hysterically regales him with what she perceives to be the unfairness of life and the pointlessness of it. And while Superman doesn't disagree, he does say that while not all of us are going to save the world or accomplish great things, if he can help just one person, then it might just be enough. The woman gets tired and says she doesn't want to talk a while, to which Superman says he'll wait until she's ready. And he does. He waits all night. Doesn't move, never leaves her side. Just waits patiently until she's finally ready to talk again. And when she does, Superman asks her to take his hand if she thinks that she might have even one happy day ahead in her life. And that's enough for the barrier to come down. The day is saved in both cases. Not by a punch, not by thwarting an evil scheme, and barely any superpowers. Just by listening, and caring enough to give someone a little light when it needed it most. Look at any comment section where these panels were shared, and you'll find dozens and dozens of people who were saved by these scenes alone, who were given just a little hope by some ink and paper and the ideal of one character. And if I'm being honest, as someone who's been in those dark places before, it's hard for even me not to get a little teary-eyed. If you can look at these reactions and what this has meant to people and still tell me that Superman is a dumb and pointless character, then you aren't paying attention. Because Superman isn't just a symbol for hope, he's a symbol of optimism, and that is something the recent films and the films to come will never understand. People often associate optimism with naivete and cynicism with wisdom. However, nothing can be further from the truth. Quite frankly, cynicism is lazy. It's lazy negative thinking disguised as wisdom. But it's the easiest damn thing to do, with the express purpose of limiting expectations to run away from the fear and pain of disappointment. Optimism, not necessarily blind optimism, is significantly harder, because you have to be able to look at all the negative aspects of our world and society and still hope for a better future. To believe a better future is possible. Optimism is really damn hard, because we do run the risk of being disappointed time and time again by people who don't share that ideal, who show the horrible things that humanity is capable of. But for every horrible thing humanity is doing, we must also look at the good. To the people helping the hungry, or the communities that will gather around to help support a boy with cancer, or the ones who go out of their way to feed the homeless, or even just one simple act of kindness. Superman will always represent the best that we, as a society, can be, and what we should be, because he believes that we will be. And that, my friends, is what makes him truly special. I think I'll let Superman take it from here.
Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us into something better. And on my soul, I swear that until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice are the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting. Ever.